to our weekly review coming up to you from Addis Media Network, Addis Television English program. So today I have a guest here joining me in our studio. I have here with me Mika Chavala, a former of Swahili Nation, as well as Akalu Abraham, Pan-Africanist and Ambassador of Peace. So welcome you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So our topic of discussion on this episode will be the Pan-Africanism and the Africa Youth Leaders Summit, which was held here in Addis Ababa. And also we'll be talking about the peace, which we guys heard, you know, the news from South Africa. So stay with us. So it is known that the high-level panel for African Union-led Ethiopian peace process has given us a really good news, guys. So the argument was signed between the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which is a TPLF group. So the peace talk, we can remember that it started on October 25th, 2022. And the argument, I think it marks an important step in efforts to silence the guns and provide a solid foundation for the preservation of Ethiopia's sovereignty and territorial integrity and the immediate cessation of hostilities. And I think the main thing in the agreement was cessation of hostilities. So I hope that you guys have heard, of course, about the news. So I should just probably start with Akalu. What is your feedback on this?
I think, you see, we're smiling in here with Mika before the studio, so it was very, you know, hugging moment. And then you see, Ethiopia has been suffering for the last 2 years, lost a lot of things, you know, lives and destruction of economies and many more problems we have been facing. That was a pain for us as a youth. We don't want to see these things in our country, in our motherland, the capital city of Africa. But now things are getting better. You see, yesterday what happened was, you see, gave us a kind of hope for the future of this continent and in the future of Ethiopia as well. So Ethiopia needs to be, you know, given a lesson for other Africa countries. That is what is expected from Ethiopia. So it is happening now. So we have been, you know, refusing for the Western influence and separations and operations and something like that. So that is who we are as an Ethiopian. And Africa in general, this is what we have to learn. Solving our problem by our own. So what I saw was yesterday, you see, I was watching every social media is right there. Everybody is happy, everybody is smiling. You see, that is what we have been looking for. You see, it's very touching. I don't want to lose life simply. You see, this is inspiring moment. Since yesterday, we were just watching over every media's every single moment, what is going to happen in South Africa. We were curious of those things, and finally it happened. That's a nice movement, but we want it to be practical to the ground level. So that's what we're expecting for the people of Ethiopia, hopefully expecting that way. So it's very interesting. It's a very inspiring moment that I can say. I'm very happy for that. Interesting. It's a very inspiring moment that I can say. I'm very happy for that.
Of course, we are all happy. So we all know that the peace has already come to Ethiopia under the African Union-led peace process. So this has to do like something with African solutions for African problems, right? Without any intervention of the African Westerners, right? So what do you say on that, Mika?
Well, let me begin by saying Ethiopia, Ethiopia. And congratulations to everybody, because I think for the past 2 years it has been, you know, crazy. It's been hard. And I remember I started to speak about Ethiopia like 3 years ago, right before the conflict started. And so I've been following closely everything that is happening. And it was just fascinating to see how African Union, led this peace talk almost for 10 days. And like my brother said, you know, this is what it means to, you know, solve our own problems by ourselves. You know, we should be proud. African Union should be proud. And I think it's a challenge. Yesterday we were having this talk with my people, and I was sharing with them that I think it's the time for us Africans to find a way to fund African Union so that this organization may actually work for Africans. You know, right now they might be limited because some of the funds, they're not really coming from us. And Sankara said, whoever feeds you controls you. So they're kind of limited in their work because there's some funds that are coming from outside, but it's a time for us Africans to come together, to contribute, to support African Union so that they may do their work for us. And we were looking at the budget. The budget is very small. It's not even 1 billion, like US dollar in a year. It's less than that. It's like a couple millions there, which in fact, like all of us, you can just give like $1 and actually funds African Union. So I think this is the big challenge, and kudos to African Union, kudos to Ethiopia, and I think this is the time for reconciliation and healing. So we pray for this peace to be sustainable, as long as it can be. And I believe Africa will never be the same again because of what just happened here in Ethiopia.
Of course. So we were saying like we expect and should be like the peace should be implemented for the future of African continent, because this problem is not only affecting Ethiopia but the whole continent. So what should we expect, like all of us, from this peace talk?
Only powerful weapon I can say. If you don't have peace, you cannot continue everything that you do in the daily life activities. Even when you were having a kind of quarrel in a family, kind of fight in a family and something, imagine how your brain is getting messed up. You see, it's peace is very important. So for that, every individual in Ethiopia, in the continent, all over the nation, you see, needs to play their own role, individual level, from the very beginning, from the household even, see, and then that will disseminate into all over the nation, and then that will bring the sustainable peace to the continent in general. Even while you are putting a peace situation in a peaceful situation here in Ethiopia, you are contributing to the continent. Not only the continent, you're contributing to the world at large, because you see, East Africa is, is a very serious area. Many interests are right there, right? So many interests since right there. When East Africa is peaceful, the world is getting peaceful. That means. So I'm just suggesting that intellectuals and then the political activists and then religious leaders and everyone who really need to feel the pain of their own people and do for the peace. We saw how peace is, when we lack of peace, we saw that how messy things that we observed we saw it. So that's not important. So we need to come up with a changing ideas and then bright future for our children, for our new generation coming, right? So the continent needs peace. Then we can fix everything after that. So that is what I really want to suggest.
We all hope for peace, for the continent. So moving on to our next topic, which is the African Youth Leaders Summit, which was held here in Addis Ababa. And the initiative came from Ethiopia, of course, by the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. And there were like a lot of discussions, and I think it was really fruitful. And I think, Mika, you were also part of the summit, and I heard some of the opinions that you were giving. So let's talk like about the African Youth Leaders Summit.
Yeah, I think it was really fascinating. First of all, this initiative by His Excellency Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to bring all these like African youth leaders from all corners of Africa coming here to Ethiopia to just meet and connect. And mind you, this was the first time. Right, nothing like this has ever happened, and that was not only the fascinating part, but bringing also the old generation, like the old leaders, like the ex-president of, it was from Ghana, yes, exactly, and exactly, and some other leaders. So it was really fascinating to actually see how he wanted to connect between the old generation and the new generation. Because you always look at the past to be inspired, for the future. And, being there, connecting with all these different youth leaders, it was just incredible. But the hunger in us, it was even fascinating, because you could tell that, youth, they were demanding that, all this plan of AU 2063, why should we do in 2063? Why not today? Yes. Why not right now? And don't just call us for summits here, but give us responsibility, right? Give us places to do. We see how Ethiopia is being transformed because of the, young leader, who is leading here in Ethiopia. And I think we have a huge part to play in the development of the continent if we are given a chance. Just like here in Addis Media Network, you see, the thing, it's beautiful here, I think, because of the youth, announcer here and some other leaders who are right here. So I think we have a huge role to play in Africa, as long as we're given a chance. And I think this summit, it was mostly about that. Yeah.
So on the conclusion, the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed were there presented to give recognition to those who have contributed to the promotion of the Pan-Africanism vision. So basically what he was saying is that the youth, when he see like the youth is like gathered in one place and talking about the matter of Africa with African youths, has given him a really good hope for the future, that the continent is about to rise. So before we get into to Akal, of course, let me just invite our viewers to a video and a speech by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and the youths as well, what they have said about the African Youth Leaders Summit. We'll be back.
Africa's journey to prosperity is inevitable. Many things are working in Africa's favor. By 2030, 40% of global youth will be African. The next generation of African and global leaders is sitting among us you. Africa's economic growth rate has ticked upward since the dawn of the new millennium. We are leapfrogging into the future at an accelerating rate. Startups, creative individuals, and innovations are flourishing in Africa.
We need to push forward this idea of Pan-Africanism. It's not just for our ancestors, it's not by our ancestors, it's also for us. Because the idea is that we propagate this idea that Africa is for us, and we need to develop it by ourselves and ensure that we become an economic giant. Long before we used to be, I remember even Zimbabwe, my country used to be the bread basket of Africa.
The moment we are experiencing a new kind of colonialism, so it is now upon us, the youth, to make sure that we first and foremost decolonize our minds.
What young people must do, and myself included, is to ensure that the resolutions that we have culminate to action that will ultimately address the three challenges of the continent.
Keep being empowered, keep staying strong. This is our continent, this is our time. All of our ancestors spread blood and tears on this land for us to be here. We come from greatness, and let us understand and actually acknowledge it.
We're back, viewers. So Akalu, let me continue with you that the main aim of the summit was to promote the Pan-Africanism vision and to bring, the Pan-African idea to the youths. And as long as you are also a Pan-Africanist, let's just talk about the Pan-Africanism specifically.
The concept of Pan-Africanism is very, very amazing as far as I know. It's all about changing the lives of the people. That's the concept, bringing together, putting all the continent countries together and then fight for their own problems to be solved. That is the idea. That was what our forefathers were fighting for. See, look at the Prime Minister's speech. It's a very strong speech and a very powerful. It's 8 minutes it takes, I think so. And then within that 8 minutes, he transferred an amazing, powerful messages to those who are listening to him. Especially users need to understand that speech, and the leaders of Africa need to understand that speech. He touched the economy, right? Yeah. He talked about the technology, the innovation that Africa needs exactly, right? And then he talked about, productivity of agriculture, right? The e-commerce and everything, you see, those science, and that is what you are wishing, hoping for Africa to be, right? We have been burned up, we see, watching the Westerners, every, lovely things out there. So we can do it in here. That was what he is inspiring the users to be. And then he gave a hope for the users to be the future of this nation. We all are going to pass, right? Yeah. So the next generation is going to take over what is coming up. So telling that the hope for the users, they are going to be the leaders. He's trying to tell, to participate users in leadership. Youth should be involved in leadership. Look, when you have a young leader, look Thomas Sankara, look this Mr. Prime Minister Abiy, and then many others. And then look, Samuel Ruto, the energy that he has. So when you are getting very older, just there is a wisdom, of course, but there is a new mindset. Just the technology, just the 21st century mind is there. You see, we need that. So that we are hungry of the African youth, are hungry of that. We don't want to just looking for other better life in the West and then Europe and then dying on the way, on the seas. You see, on the deserts. We don't need that. Why? Why don't they travel to the, migrate, the Westerns, maybe like the Europeans? Do they migrate to Africa? No. Do they see those old travelers that we see when they coming to Africa? No. They are in a peace, just, a very good hand we're taking them here, and then just that's okay. But what we need is, fair kind of share, mutual benefit. You don't have to take 90% of African resource and give us 10. That's not working, okay? These users already knew everything. We understand everything. So we need a change. A change means what he made a speech. Change is inevitable, he said, the Prime Minister, right? The change in Africa is not just inevitable. It's coming. In the future, all the eyes will be in Africa. Still it is there because Africa is full of everything. The richest continent on Mother Earth, right? So I can see that the speech was completely inspiring, and then latest the users to be, wise enough to see their way. And also it tells us for all the leaders of Africa, and then it also tells us the European leaders to understand some kind of stuff. Yeah. These African people, these African leaders are coming up. So we have to negotiate peacefully. We don't have to, suppress and something like that. That's not working. So they are telling us a message. They are giving us a great message through Prime Minister Abiy. You can take like that. So it's very interesting. I loved it, and then it's very inspirational, I can say.
So Pan-Africanism was formed in the late 1960s, right? And right now we are in 21st century. So bringing this Pan-Africanism idea in the modern time, that's in the time of technology that we have, innovation, as the Prime Minister were also saying. So since the users are believed to be a change maker around the globe, so what could be the role of the youth in promoting the Pan-Africanism vision in the 21st century?
Yeah, I think, at this time, I always say this, that, back in the days, they didn't have internet, right? They didn't have even phone. They didn't have this means, they didn't have TikTok, right? But, they met in 1963, all of these leaders, they met at Ghana, and that's when Julius Kambarage Nyerere, he said, without unity, there will be no future for Africa. But today, we have all these means, technology and everything. That means right now we're supposed to be united because we have everything that we need. It's much easier for us to connect our people, more than, back in the days in the past. So what I would say to the youth, I think our role is to use every means possible to change the image of Africa. Today, if you go on social media and you type Africa, you'll see the image will come there. If you type Ethiopia, you'll see what kind of Ethiopia is there on the media. But that's because that's the only thing that people have been, putting on social media. And youth right now, all of us, we use media. How do we actualize this media to actually, transfer that message of Pan-Africanism? Because Pan-Africanism is not just idea, it's a way of life. Yeah. It's something that not just Africans should believe, but anyone should believe in Pan-Africanism, that everybody deserves to live, everybody deserves fair share, everybody deserves to be, we deserve to be one and united and all those stuff. So I think our role is very important in that sense. And one thing that I would like to advise, youth and young people out there is that, enhance yourself with energy and skills. Because at this age of time, we cannot compete internationally if we don't have skills, if we don't have knowledge. And that skills, it could be computer skills, it could be knowledge, different kind of knowledge. You don't have to go to school to learn that. You can actually learn that through social media as we have today. So if we do like that, then we are actually preparing ourselves with those, with our competitors, because we don't really have any competition in the continent, but we have them outside. And most of us, we go outside to study, outside to find knowledge, to come to develop our continent. But we can do right here in the continent by taking advantage of the social media we have. That's pretty much what I would say.
There were users from 54 African countries, right? They came here to Ethiopia to see what Ethiopia is really about. So what amazed me is that one of the youths, you know what he said? Like maybe their medias, actually, you know, African medias, they will be talking about a country, about African country, but they're not just transmitting the image of the actual, you know, image that the country have. Specifically, you know, we're talking about Ethiopia. So he told me that he was not thinking Ethiopia to be like this, since you know, during the summit they have visited, you know, many places, many destinations in Addis Ababa and around, right? So one of them is the Science Museum. So they have said that you guys, medias, of course, you're not doing the right thing to promote the image of the country. Like they see another image and they probably hear about the war that's going on, the drought, and many others. So I think it has helped Ethiopia to promote its image, you know, because they also have shared, you know, some of the success stories that they have regarding to the wheat production, regarding to the, you know, the Science Museum, the things that the talent development skills being integrated here in the capital. So what do you have to say on that?
That's a great opportunity for Ethiopia, actually. When you are bringing users from every corner of not only the continent, Africa, but you have to invite users from all over the world. That will come next, I think so. I think MOFA is working on that, I think so. We have to call all the users of the world need to come in and see the birthplace of human nature or human race, right? So because we have a lot, it's very shocking that the medias are only showing the bad part of it, and because they are helped, or I mean they have some kind of interest in that. When Ethiopia is now, maybe the image of Ethiopia is built, you know, a lot. It's a kind of maybe they are afraid of that, and because the history this country has got is very special, I can say. Imagine Ethiopian history is one of the European countries' history. Look how it will be magnified if it is the European history is in here. Sorry to say this, but this is very amazing in here. So we have to this. I mean, I can say that the users tour and visiting around was very interesting, and then I loved it. I was watching. They tried to see even the federal police office and very technology things, and they saw many places around. That's very interesting. That's inspiring. It's image building. And on the other part, I can say that these users, when they get back to their country, they have to do something else. They have to explain what they saw to their friends, their brothers and sisters, right there in their schools, wherever they work on. So that is also the one thing that I really want to suggest on. That's very interesting. I loved it.
We were saying that this summit is the first in its kind, right? So we really hope that there will be summits such as this one in other African countries, so that all peoples or all the youths should explore what Africa has, because I don't think we have really understood what we have, you know, in rich resources, culture, and heritage that we have, right?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest, it's a funny thing that Africans, we don't really know who we are and what we have. And it seems like they know what we have and who we are. And that's why for a long time they've been taking advantage of Africa. So my message when I came here to Ethiopia for 2 weeks, I just had two messages. The first one was focus on the light, that there's so much light going on. And instead of focusing on the negative news and what is how, focus on the light, because it's light, right? Darkness has no power. If you turn light, darkness disappears. That's the power of light. And the second one, remember who you are, that Ethiopia. Look at your history, where you came from, who you are. You've always been victorious. You always won. You always have this. If you remember that, whatever that you're facing right now, it will look like a piece of cake. You know what I'm saying? So Africans, we need to know who we are. Our story, the history of Africa, it's not beginning with slavery. It begins with kings. We used to be kings before they came and colonized us. Of course, it's different to Ethiopians because you guys are never colonized. You don't understand what I'm saying right now, but when you go to the United States, in that African museum, I think it's in New York, the story of Africa begins with slavery. But that's not our story. That's the history of Africa before the slavery, and that's well, we used to be king, all right, and queens, of course. Yeah. And so that's that kind of story that we need to bring, you know, and the light, onto the light that, all right, we are kings. We ain't slaves, we're kings. And if we embrace that, I'm telling you, man, like everything that is going on right now, we're not going to be surprised because this is who we are. We are the most civilized nation in the world before anyone else. It began in Africa. We had really powerful kingdoms, you know, in Mali, here in Ethiopia, in Congo, in different parts of Africa, Egyptian and all this stuff. Man, we are Africans, you know what I'm saying? Like, know who you are, for God's sake.
What is in there? They don't write those things. There is nothing written in there, but there is amazing wisdom and then amazing histories there before the slavery. Before that? Yeah, that's what you are saying. Thank you. Yeah.
If we discussed enough on this, let's just have a small break and we'll continue our discussion. So viewers, you're watching a weekly review from Addis Media Network at the television English program with our guest joining us here in our studio, Mika Chavala, founder of Swahili Nation, as well as Akalu Abraham, ambassador of peace and Pan-Africanist. So stay with us again. Welcome back, viewers. So to continue our discussion, what could be the reasons behind, the Western or external pressure and interference being waged in Ethiopia? And, specifically we can mention Ethiopia, but the continent at large.
The answer is very simple. They can't survive without Africa.
That's it.
That's it. Like, they cannot survive without Africa since back in the days until today. Africa is the only continent that can sustain by itself without any support from anywhere. But it's not the same thing for them. They need Africa to survive. Imagine right now even the air pollution that we have. Africa, it constitutes only 3% of the air pollution in the world. In the world, only 3%. The rest of it is from them. But yet Africa, we are facing consequences of what they are doing, right? So for them, they need Africa to survive. They need the raw materials. They need the resources. They need everything. Everything that you see is happening in this world is coming from Africa. Like, you can name everything. And without Africa, they can't survive. And that's why for so long they've been trying to traumatize Africa, to make sure that Africa is not united, specifically Ethiopia as well, to make sure that all the time there's all these quarrels here and there, so that they may not focus on development, but spend so much money on just, dealing with casualties, dealing with war. But, you guys, you have really, I would say, really good government, because regardless of what was happening, look at how development has been happening in the city. It's something to applaud, right? And I think it's just a moment for Africa to realize that hey, we are in a position to demand something. If we come together as one, as Africa, like one voice, with one voice, these guys, they ain't going to put sanction on Africa. Because if they put sanction on Ethiopia, we're going to demand them to put sanction on the entire continent. They're not going to do that because they need Africa to survive. So instead, we'll put sanction on them. Us. We'll put sanction on them. We need to come together. Ethiopia is producing wheat right now. Amazing wheat. I've done an episode of that. Look at the dam, the electricity that is going to support the entire continent, in a way. And there's so many other countries. Tanzania, we produce rice, we produce maize. When you go to different countries, we have oil, we have everything, man. If we work together as one and share all these resources that we have, trade amongst each other, Africa will be unstoppable. And when it comes to raw materials, we need to export to Europe. Right now, Africa is trading with Europe more than trading with Africa themselves. But we don't have eco-trade. We don't have fair trade. They get a lot of money from what we produce. Take an example of Ethiopia and coffee. You guys, you produce coffee. This is the origin of coffee. But Ethiopia is not really benefit from coffee because most of money goes to Starbucks, if I can mention them, right? But if we come together as one and use the resources that we have amongst each other and trade with them with equal and fair trade, sky is not the limit, my sister Hikima. Oh my goodness.
Let me continue with you, Akalu.
That's the pain that he has, you see, for Africa. Thank you, my brother. Having you here in Ethiopia is amazing. So thank you for coming. So, you see, the pressure comes, the one who controls Africa controls the world. That's the game they're playing, right? Oh, yeah. So when you are controlling Africa, the resource is yours. That is, for 400 years they have been working on that. now we need not, you see, we don't need that kind of approach. We need fair approach, that's it. So we have everything, as you said. Imagine all the resources are in here. But there was a professor, I don't remember his name, he's in Europe presenting for his lecture class. He said that what the Europeans are thinking is, you remember, right? Africans are only there to give us a raw material, not to manufacture. You're not allowed to manufacture. You're only there to give us a raw material. We manufacture for you, then we will send you back, and then you will buy it with the dollars. Look, the import and export. You see? We are only there to export everything. No, I mean to import. So the import and the export level, level is not equal. So we need to export a lot of materials. We need to have a lot of dollars and euros and many more foreign currencies. And then we have to build our own one in here, strong money also too. Mika usually says that, putting out just in the passport that you suggested last time on the summit, I remember the passport and in the train system and everything, if we are getting together and as one nation, we can protect ourselves. So that is what we are lacking. The problem is in our leaders. You see, the leaders, I think they are now inspired. Things are getting shaking, you see. Users are already waking up, okay? Everybody is asking questions. Everybody needs a change. For that, leaders are not sleeping now. It's not the then time, okay? Now, everything is clear. Everything is on social media. We know how his children is living in the US and living kind of, you see. We know one of the African leaders, their family, something, how they are exploiting the nation's money and then playing right there. So we understood everything thanks to technology. So now that's not going to work. So the only way is making everything fair and living for his own people. I usually say they have to say first, their people, their country, and their new generation coming. If you think for your people, for the generation, and if you have a fear of God, you can do everything fairly. You see, that's what we are still pushing on, and then you see, and on the last point, maybe we can come up with other things. I think so. So thank you.
I totally agree with you guys, both of you. So maybe I should just, our conclusion topic, which will be your personal reflections on how today's African youth can be tomorrow's leaders, because obviously we're talking about the summit, that the youth that we have, the African youth is, it has been mentioned that the African youth could be leaders for tomorrow, right? So what is your personal reflection?
I think African youth are the leaders of today, because right now when you look at the population in Africa, 70% of the population is youth under the age of 30 and 25. Wow. That means we have more youth than old people. We need old people for the wisdom and for the guidance, but we need youth leaders to actualize these ideas and plans, right? I think it's the time for African leaders and our African system to accept that it's the time for youth. It is the time for youth. Yes. Like they need to just leave it like that. They can still stay, guiding us and leading us, which is going to be really difficult, in an actual sense. But when we understand that, I think youth, when we think that right now is the time for us to be leaders, we actually take responsibility. We start thinking like leaders. So that's what I would love to challenge all the youth who are watching this program, that start thinking like a leader. Start thinking like, what can you do right now to change, to contribute to your government? My dreams long time ago was to become a president of Tanzania. And I was waiting, I was like, when I become 45 years old, I'll become a president. But then I challenged myself. I was like, why should I wait until I turn 45 to start serving my people? Why don't I start serving my people right now? So I challenged myself and I started right away. And so right now we have Soil Nation One Africa. And basically I'm doing the work that government is doing, that AU is doing. That's what I'm doing right now, because we're the leaders of right now. If you have an idea to start some program or to start innovation or whatever, go ahead and do it and start leading right now. Because the only way for us to transform Africa is not waiting for leaders to do something, but for us actually to be the change that Africa needs. You understand what I'm saying? That's it. Yeah.
You could be an inspiration for the African users out there, I believe. So, Akal, let me continue.
Of course, leaders of Africa, they have to open the doors for the users, because the users needs to practice, right? I can see if you go to like 70% of users, as Mika said, uses, sir. Africa, right? So Africa is, the power is there, I mean. The key power is there. If you go to every offices who are operating there mainly, you can see the number of users there. You see, all the energetic users, and you know, who has got a powerful thinking, and they can change their institution right there, their project even, you see. So they have to give some kind of rooms for the users. Users has got brighter mind. Even the kids sometimes, you see, they do some amazing things. You see, the innovation they do, you can't imagine. When you visit the science, you know, museum, I saw some kids are. How come? How do they think that way? You see, that means there is a power in there. Maybe they lack the opportunity. Look, every corner of the continent, if you go regions, I mean, go to the village, the countryside. There are, you know, high school, not even junior school students are doing something. I saw a little boy from, you know, drop out, and then he made electricity and then distributed for 400 people, I mean, householders, and then he was collecting some money here in Ethiopia. Look, he did from the kind of trashes, collected trashes, and making electricity. He doesn't know anything, but he has got some. You see, this is what, you know, user has got some kind of. We didn't use these uses. So the door should be open for the users, and they give them some opportunities. This, the Science Museum is given opportunity. This has to be go to some other places also too. Not only in Addis, it must be go to regions also too. You know, we have to put some kind of like that. So, and then educate, okay? Educate the users from the very beginning, being a leader, right? And then also serving the people. Bring the mentality of, you know, serving, you see, the mentality of leadership from the very beginning, from the childhood, and then it's telling them the effect of corruptions, and then the theft and the bribery. That's not important. We have to tell them that fear of God, you see, that's a wrong turn. If you do this, that's a punishment from kindergarten level. So you have to teach them like that. If they grow, imagine if they grow that way, what will come? You see, no thieves are there. No corruptors are there. No people are just extracting, exploiting everything from the institution. No. You see, if you see these days in Ethiopia, in every corner of Africa, this is the problem. Everybody's trying to have their own. You see, that's not working. Collectively, we have to bring a lot of things and then do something better for the nation, for the people. That's what we have to do. So we can bring users like that, and then also we have to use artists and medias, you know, you see so the art has got its own power, right? Mika will help me with that because he is into it. So the art can do a lot, and the medias, they have to tell the people, you know, bring, you see, empower these users, and then aware users to be a good one, you see, rather than, you know, doing something wrong. Yeah, so we have a lot of assignments to do. Let's finish this, the peace process, and we'll come up for that.
I want to hear your thoughts, Hekima. The last question. What are your personal thoughts on how today's African youth come tomorrow's leader? I would love to hear your thoughts.
Well, basically what they say is that youths are really change makers, because I totally agree on that. Because like you can see that the mind that we have, the users today are good at technology, good at innovation, and also regarding to what Ethiopia is doing to the, you know, just involving the youth in every decision-making process, just like some of this one could be approved. And also there were like, probably you have heard about it, like the talent schools, which is being inaugurated here in the country.
Exactly.
So basically, I totally agree on the things that you guys have said, and that is my thought.
I love that. That's really good. Come on, somebody. That was really good.
Okay, anyways, I'm afraid that we have came to the conclusion of our discussion. I really had a good time discussing with you, both of you. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of this great and amazing discussion. Thank you both of you.
We have the final say.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure being here, and those were just beautiful, amazing questions. I really appreciate it. Guys, continue to watch this.
We enjoyed everything. Let's use African resources to Africans, and then that's all about. Thank you, Hikma. We had a great time.
Well, viewers, so we ended up here from our weekly review. Addis Media Network, Addis Television English program. With me hosting Hikma Tamam, joined by Mika Chavala, who is a founder of Swahili Nation, as well as Akalu Abraham, ambassador of peace and Pan-Africanist. So thank you so much for being with us. Have a good time.